Welcome to the Web Hosting Cat Podcast, brought to you by webhostingcat.com. Here's your host, Michael James.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. WordPress continues to be the most popular content management system for website owners. And on this episode of the podcast, our friend David Vogelpohl returns to talk all about WordPress in 2017. David is the VP of Web Strategy for WP Engine, the company that specializes in premium managed WordPress hosting. He had some very interesting and informative things to say during our discussion. All right, I'm pleased to welcome back to the show the VP of Web Strategy for WP Engine, David Vogelpohl. David, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks, Michael. Glad to be here.
I want to talk to you today all about WordPress in 2017. 4.7, actually 4.71, I think, was just released. What are your thoughts on the current state of WordPress and where it's headed in the future?
I've been really excited about the last few releases. I've seen WordPress start to evolve more towards a true content management system. One that leverages more modular approaches to information. I'm really excited specifically about this recent release with the demo content ability, where you can deploy demo content and in a theme and things like that. But just generally, as releases have come over the last 3 or 4 years, the way in which you're able to control your content has increased, and that's, to me, always been where WordPress needed to focus a lot of its attention. Right? It was a blogging platform initially, and evolved from there through custom post types and other things, but the ability to manage content in modular ways and seeing that evolve with WordPress, that's what's gotten me most excited.
Now, you've talked a lot about building big applications with WordPress. For those out there that might not be aware, what are some of the types of applications that you can build with WordPress, other than just a blog? Yeah,
right? Like, that's the common misconception, is that WordPress is just a blogging platform. But the reality is that it's a content management system, and it's also an application framework. You can build applications on top of WordPress. What WordPress fundamentally is PHP and a MySQL database. Well, guess what? That's the basis of an application. So for me, some of the famous, some of the better applications you can build with WordPress that I like, I built my own Bitly clone, a URL shortener. And actually, it only takes 7 minutes. And the way that you do it is you use a plugin called Pretty Links through a headless install. Now, if you don't know what any of that means, there's a video that'll show you how to do it. It's a 7-minute video. And if you go to literal.co, litturl.co/video, there's a video that shows you how to build your own URL shortener in 5 minutes. So that's one of my favorite ones. At WP Engine, we built one using WordPress that leverages, or that integrates in with HubSpot, and with some custom code we wrote that'll run a speed test on your website. And we use that for lead gen for our business. And it was an application we built that tests the speed of your website, that integrates with HubSpot for automated emails, and leverages WordPress as the framework with which to orchestrate all those things. So those are some examples.
Now, can most of these more advanced applications be done via plugins, or do they require custom code?
The DIY examples I give are great, and I think there's a lot of ways to leverage plugins to build an application, or service to build an application. AppPresser is a way to turn a WordPress site into a mobile app. But I think fundamentally, if you really want to do it, you either need to be a developer or hire one. And, at the end of the day, if you want to do custom stuff, you have to have a developer no matter what. But I think there's some really interesting and powerful ways to leverage plugins and themes to build DIY applications that do really useful things.
Now, I'm glad you brought up AppPresser, because I was just going to ask you about that.
Nice.
How does that work? Is it easy to use, and can you really create a mobile application from your WordPress application?
I'm not an AppPresser expert. I've never used the platform. Brian Messenlaner is a co-speaker with me, who spoke with me today at the session, and a friend of mine. And to hear him describe it, it's not fully DIY. I don't know if I would take my mom and turn her loose on AppPresser, but I think if you're a technical marketer, that's kind of what I am. I'm not a developer, but if you're a technical marketer, I believe that it's sufficient enough to help you get there. And again, it depends, I think, a lot on the complexity of the site you're building right? One of AppPresser's examples that they gave today was a site called list25.com, and then another one called TorqueMag, which is actually a publication by WP Engine. And that all those applications are is basically a mirror for the blog. Okay. And so it's a way to push content into an app to make it real easy for your customer to go browse your articles. Mm-hmm. And the other cool feature that I liked about it was that it does push notifications.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a new post, you can actually have it send push notifications. And I think they even let you modify when post notifications are sent. So if you only wanted to do it on certain tags or categories or types of posts, I believe you can actually do that as well. I know you can with a developer. I don't know if you can DIY.
Okay, great.
But I'm not an app presser expert, so I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. David, are there any kinds of applications that you would recommend that you not use WordPress for?
I'm not a huge fan of using it to store any private information about individuals.
Right, okay.
So I like to store that outside of WordPress in various ways, depending on what you're doing. Matter of fact, when Brian gave the example today of custom post types, if you know what that is, it's a custom type of post with metadata. And in the example, he was saying, I might build a site to help the Marine Corps with their recruiting or whatever. And one of the examples of the meta fields he gave in the talk was Social Security number. Well, no. Do not store Social Security numbers in WordPress in general, but that would be one thing, is to watch out for that information, private information like that. But really, there's not a whole lot of applications that can't be done in there. You might ask yourself if it's the best platform for what you're trying to do, but other than private information, I really don't have a ton of things that I say are just that's absolutely not going to ever work in WordPress. Now, WordPress might not be the right answer for situation A, B, or C, but I don't have any restrictions because again, it's just PHP code in a database. It can literally do anything.
Right. Okay. Now, one of the biggest challenges for WordPress currently is Wix.com and these ready-made website building companies. We've written a lot about it on our website. I prefer WordPress. I just wanted to get your take on how would you compare the two, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've actually thought a lot about this, and I actually recommend Wix to certain people for certain situations. So a good example of when I would recommend Wix, my mother is a lawyer, and she has a law firm, and she needs a website for a law firm, but she's not looking to grow it to insane levels. She doesn't do any SEO. It's really just a brochure for her business. Her customers come from referrals and things like that. And so does she need the flexibility of WordPress? No, she doesn't. She needs a site with her logo and her services and her phone number. So for me, when I'm making the decision about what platform to recommend, it really has to do with how much I feel the person's wanting to evolve their business on the web. So Wix is really interesting because it's easy. But if you think about it, like let's imagine that a new feature comes out, like AWP. And so when when AMP came out, there was a plugin for AMP for WordPress the next day. Now, it might not have been the best plugin, but it was there and it worked. Where a company like Wix, they must deal with their own backlog in their engineering group. So when AMP comes out, somebody notices it, goes to the engineering group and says, guys, we got to do something about AMP. And the engineering group says, that's great, it's going in our backlog. And so Wix and platforms like that evolve with the speed of their engineering department. A platform like WordPress, which is open source and has tens of thousands of developers contributing to it, it evolves with the speed of the web. So that's the difference. If you're going to lean into your site and evolve it with the web, WordPress is probably a better choice. But if you need a simple solution to get a website up and have a brochure site or something simple and you're not worried about evolving your site with the web, a platform like Wix is fantastic.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, WP Engine recently started offering a free Let's Encrypt SSL certificates, which I think is great because, as you know, Google's come out and now they're going to designate sites as secure or unsecure. Besides HTTPS, are there any other security measures you would recommend for WordPress sites?
Yeah, there's a whole laundry list of stuff you can do. One of my favorite tips is to change your WordPress admin login page for /WP admin. Of course, you want to use things like two-factor authentication. Working out the laundry list here on the podcast will be a little tough, but one of my favorite tips is to use a service called Sucuri, SUCRI. And they do a bunch of stuff. One of the things I really like that they do is basically malware scanning for your website. So they crawl your PHP, and WP Engine, by the way, uses Sucuri for this purpose, for known vulnerabilities. And so they'll let you know if there's a vulnerability. We don't use this, I don't believe, but they also have a bit of a firewall feature. We use a service called Cloudflare for that functionality, but they also have a bit of a firewall type service for your website, and then they can also help you recover from a hacked website. So using Security is a good way to check a lot of those boxes. And then if you follow their blog, they have a lot of the more like kind of checklisty things that you could do beyond just using their service. And they're not terribly expensive and worth it. You definitely don't want a hacked site.
Right. Okay. Now, last time we talked about personal WordPress sites, and as you know, WP Engine offers hosting for everything from a personal site to custom solutions. And I just wanted to actually going on the other end of things, for an enterprise-wide WordPress installation, what are some of the considerations you need to keep in mind?
I've dealt with this a lot. Our services, as you pointed out, start with our $29 personal plan, one website, all the way up to huge enterprise deployments with multiple servers and multiple data centers. I've dealt with this in the past. When an organization, a big organization, deals with this, a lot of the time, the engineering group will come in and say, well, no. This is our cluster. These are our servers. We have a data center. We're going to manage this. And my point back to them always is, well, first off, do you know WordPress? And the answer most of the time is no. So how do they optimize the caching layer? How do they optimize the traffic routing? How do they do security? How do they do patches? What is the best technology stack? They have to go figure all of that out. Chances are in a big organization, there's other systems they're dealing with .NET or other programming languages, and that's really where they're held accountable. They're not held accountable necessarily for managing this WordPress install or WordPress instance with all these marketing websites and things like that. And so, do you really want, as an engineering group, another headache, another point that something could go wrong, and it's something that you're not an expert at? Yes, outsourcing to someone like WP Engine through managed hosting does cost more than going straight to AWS. But the flip side is you don't have to go spend those engineering resources, time, and money, which is more than the cost difference between AWS and WP Engine. But do you really want those headaches? And when you put it that way, I've actually had a ton of success with folks saying, well, yeah, okay, no, I really don't want that extra headache, right? I was a goalie when I played soccer, and it was funny because you would save goals all day long, and that was expected, but if you missed one, well, then everybody bemoaned, right? And that's kind of like being an engineering group in an enterprise, right? Nobody comes to you and says, hey, that WordPress site has been running great for the last 3 months and gives you a high five. No, what do? They bug you on a Saturday afternoon when you're with your kids and say the site's down, you're an idiot, you're a jerk for making the site go down or whatever you did, and do you want that extra headache? And that's not what you're being held accountable for. That's not where your core competency is. Why would you introduce one more reason to have your Saturday afternoon interrupted?
Great. Awesome. Well, I always enjoy talking to you, and I know you're busy, so you got to run, but this is great information, and I highly recommend WP Engine for managed WordPress hosting. It's the company we always recommend for premium managed WordPress solutions. David, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope to see you again real soon.
Thanks, Michael. I really enjoyed this.
Always great to talk to David. Big thanks to him for joining us again on the podcast. That'll do it for now. For more WordPress tips and for more information on WP Engine, visit our site at webhostingcat.com. And until next time, this is Michael James wishing you the very best with all of your website endeavors. Thank you for listening, and take care, everyone.
You've been listening to the Web Hosting Cat Podcast, sponsored by webhostingcat.com. The preceding program is copyrighted 2017 by Tux Cat Media.